Allison, I know I just told you, but I hadn't hit record yet. I'm so looking forward to this conversation. I know that it is going to be in immense service to everyone listening because it's one of those topics that we all know, we all are experiencing it, but because we all know and because we're all experiencing it, it can almost make it feel like we shouldn't feel heaviness about it happening because it's happening to everyone we know. And I love that your work is saying, I see you and I am you, and we can do something about this to thrive. And I'm here for it. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for having me here to talk about these things. I feel like the women that I meet, what we need is to say to each other, good job. You're
Yeah.
already doing it. You're enough. You are pretty amazing in all the stuff that you're doing. And there's a huge benefit to the way women are showing up and making families work and making our social systems work. And I am really proud to be the person who goes around and gives everybody a big pat on the back. And it's like, you're already doing it. You're so good at this. Great job. Congratulations. Take a deep breath and maybe take a nap, if you need one.
Yes. And to that, I would add, and while you are napping, dream, dream big, because when you wake up, I'm here to tell you, you are allowed and you get to want more and you don't have to do more. You just get to experience more. And
Right.
it's yummy.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's the one of the core features of my book is trying to help women understand you're already enough. You are doing it and you deserve to put a pause on anything that you don't want to do and just say yes to being okay with yourself exactly as you are right in this moment.
Right. And holding space for yourself to even identify what that is. Because
Yeah,
I feel like
absolutely.
we're going fast, we're taking care, we're doing it like a boss, and it's like taking its toll. But we don't have time to manage the toll it's taking or even look at that because it's 20 minutes till school pickup and I got to go do it all again. And, shoot, I forgot to take something out of the freezer for dinner. So now I have to add that somehow between here and school. There's just so much going on. So
You're right.
I love your work. I love the book. I know that I'm going to have 1,000 questions and an amen sister all the way around. But first, I would love to hear, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
I am saying yes to being a B plus daughter. And that is
Mm.
something really special that I have allowed myself to do as somebody who has my whole life tried to be A plus plus
Right.
at everything. A plus plus mom, A plus plus wife, A plus plus school, right? Get those grades, A plus plus worker, A plus plus voter. you know, um, I'll say I've never been an A plus plus cook, or chef. So oops on that one. But one of the things I'm saying yes to for myself is allowing myself to be a B plus daughter, which is to say, I am showing up, I'm doing the work, I'm making good on who I want to be and what my family needs without overdoing it for this not necessary sort of striving and hustling. So I'm allowing myself to take a little step back and notice that I'm already doing so much and actually I don't have to strive to be a B plus daughter. I am an excellent daughter at least a B plus level. And so saying yes to myself is mental talk
Mhm.
about my own worth, my value, and an honest look at the resources that I have to give to all the different facets of my life and being comfortable with the amount that I can give.
Mm, that's so beautiful. Like I just like want to sit in that. And it's of course prompting more questions because I'm have two questions about
Okay.
that. Yes. Who is grading you? And how will you know when you're worthy of the B plus? Like what does B plus look like for
Yeah.
you? And who's grading you anyway?
As daughters, well, and this is what I learned from my research over the past 10 years, talking to hundreds of women and asking them, what does it mean to do daughtering? What does it mean to be a good daughter? Where did we come up with that? Where did you learn what is good, what's good enough? How do you, as you're asking, how do you know when you've achieved it? And what I've learned through my research is that women gain an understanding of goodness and worthiness, typically not through a specific talk that someone gives you or a rubric that someone hands you and says, okay, do this, get full points, do this, get full points, but rather a sense of what everyone else is doing and what we imagine that we ought to be doing. And it comes from our social system as well as from our family, from our parents. So for me, I have this awareness that being a good daughter is kind of a score that I've created. It's an imaginary score. And it doesn't mean that it's fake and not real, but it is often a moving goalpost that's hard to get the ball down the field and score, because every time I do something well, then I think, well, I need to do more of that, or I need to um, you know, like do that, but with a smile. And so I'm grading myself. I realized a while ago that I hadn't even asked my parents, what do you want from me? What do you expect from me? What would you think is enough? Enough calls, enough visits, enough finances, enough, um, you know, reduction of conflict. Like what are the things that you want for me to do out of my life with our family or with my career or my children, etc. I was just making up this scorecard, and so many women are, and we're getting it from our peers, but we're getting it from media. We're often viewing social media and the highlight reel of people's lives and thinking, oh, that's good daughtering. And so I had to recognize that there was kind of a nebulous cloud of what it means to be good, and I was never ever going to get. And that's part of it. I was never ever going to get to A plus 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 daughtering because it's this unachievable space that's too far out ahead of me. And that's why B plus daughtering is more effective for me because I feel like I can define that. I
Mm,
can define B plus daughtering in terms of a certain number of visits, a certain number of calls, and I can look at that sort of measurable amount of doing daughtering and feel adequate and feel satisfactory, which is, just above good. And I know that it's not a perfect level, but since I'm not striving for perfection, I can let myself stay there in that area of B plusness.
mm. Oh, it's so good. Thank you for that. I appreciate you expounding on that. And I'm also interested in when you asked your parents, did they have an answer for you?
Yes. So, well, let me go back a little bit because I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with kind of, I don't know, the basic concept that I tend to talk about, which is daughtering. And when I talk about daughtering and use the word daughtering, I'm talking about how adult daughters actively show up in our family relationships. So, the relationship between myself and my mom or my dad, or if you have a stepmom, stepdad, or it could even be in laws, daughtering is the way that you choose to be in your family. And so much of daughtering, people are there are obvious things that we notice, like, oh, okay, when a daughter buys the birthday gifts and the nobody else bought a birthday gift for mom or dad, then that's daughtering. But it's so many more elements that get missed, that are invisible, that include doing emotional labor or thinking and planning or worrying when nobody else seems to be doing this worrying for our parent, self-sacrifice, that we think I have to give this so that my parent is happy. I just want them to be happy, so I'm going to make sure that that happens. I'm going to be the master of this and make sure that my parent is happy. So doing daughtering is both uh, draining and takes a lot of resources, but also want to say that it's rewarding. It's the kind of thing that daughters keep doing because we want to make our parent happy. We want to be in a good family. We want to be in this connected environment. So I did this research study, and it was many years ago, and that's when I started asking other women, well, have you ever talked to your mom? Have you ever talked to your dad and asked them what they wanted? And I found out some really interesting results, which is that many people, when they shared what their mom or dad wanted from them, there were a whole big group of women who said they want nothing from me. They just want me to go off and live my life and be happy. When I've all these years and decades I've been growing up, all my parent wants for me is to have a better life than they did, to have a happy life with my partner, my children, or in my job. And that's when we realize that we've been doing all this striving for our parents that they never ask us for. And they're like, we don't want you to martyr yourself to make us happy. We're not going to say no if you show up to have
Right.
coffee and watch golf with us, but
Right.
we're not wanting you to give up everything. So,
Right. I think that's so fascinating, which is why I wanted to ask you if they answered, because I asked my mom this a
okay.
couple of years ago in her Mother's Day card. And just for some context, my dad passed away during the pandemic of COVID. And my mom, it was always going to be that she moved to Massachusetts to live with me because I'm the daughter and that's what you do. And she's from here. So that was going to be great. But my house has too many stairs and it snows here. And my brother lives in California where my mom lived. So she ended up living there. So that's a whole other, like, I'm in daughtering detention because my younger brother is doing what I'm supposed to. So that's a whole nother thing. But then I asked my mom in a Mother's Day card, hey, what would you like this next year to look like? Do you want me to call you every Sunday? Do you want me to come visit? How many times? Like what would be the most pleasurable year of what that I could do for you with you? Like, what do you want? And I sent the card. I didn't hear anything. And I waited a few weeks and just thought, hey, did you get my card? Yes, thank you so much. It's like, so what do you think? It's like, I'm thinking about that. I'm like, okay, great. Christmas rolls around. Like, hey, just checking in. Have you decided what you want this year to look like since we're 6 months into this now? No, I'm still thinking about that. I mean, and we never talked about it again. She just didn't want anything more than what we were having. And I was making myself feel wrong that it was so easy. And I think she was thinking, like, oh, am I supposed to want to be with you still? Like, we already did that. Like, you're doing your thing. I watch you on Instagram. Like, everything is good and happy. But to me, it doesn't look normal. Like, aren't I supposed to be calling my mom all the time? Like, aren't I supposed to be taking care of her, especially since my brother is how, I mean, like all the things. So thank
Yeah.
you for
You know,
writing a
but
book because I'm your person and my mom's doing it excellently, and then I'm making it harder.
it's so funny that so many great points. I wrote down the word daughtering detention because I'm absolutely going to make a post about that now because that
Perfect.
is such a great point. But when I asked my parents what they wanted, and I do think many parents respond this way, they say nothing more, or you're already doing it. Now, the thing is whether or not we believe them, right? Because there's this dynamic where we think the parent will then kind of uh not not lie but maybe fib a little bit because they want us to not feel like we have to do the daughtering out of obligation, just like we might be with a partner or a friend. We want them to want to do the things, but as
Yes.
a daughter who feels obligation no matter what, as I think children do in families, it's just a fact of life. We would love this yardstick. Like if they said call one time a week and I called one time a week, then I would feel really good about it. The opposite might become true though, that our parent feels like, well, they're just calling me because I told them they have to. And so there's this sense of how much we have to do, but there's this additional issue of what's the motivation for doing the thing that you want to do or have to do. And are you okay with the motivation? And is your parent okay with the motivation? So,
And are you both open to course correct along the way?
or discuss how obligation doesn't mean unhappiness.
Right.
You know that
Ever. Please.
right in my family, for example, I go um, to my parents' house for every Thanksgiving and every Christmas. And we manage that with having small things at our personal house, and then we have to drive. So they live within driving distance, but not within, that you just do that in a day trip. And it's one of those things that for a few years, my parents would say, you don't have to do this. And I finally said to them, please stop saying that. I'm going to come. I actually like coming because I like having a routine. I like seeing you. You're my parent, and I want to see you on the holiday. I like creating this for my children to have a routine because then when they're adults, they can see sort of what's normative and what to continue. And
And
when
what you
I,
want them to do
yeah,
for
when
you.
I'm
Right.
retired, I want my child to come visit
Mhm.
me on Christmas. And that there's just this like squidgy bit between obligation and motivation and what makes us happy, what do we enjoy, what's good for the family. And we all have to kind of get comfortable with the fact that the things that happen between adult child and their parent are half and half. I'm doing this because I feel like I ought to be good, and I'm also doing it because I love you and I love the benefit of being in a family. But that's kind of like what life is like in general. When I go to work to make money, I do that because I like having a job and being a worker. But there are also plenty of parts of that where I think, oh, today, oh, it's such a Monday, or I have to do these certain things at work that I don't want to do. And we have to kind of find the balance of, am I fulfilling a life purpose? Am I doing something that has a greater good, even when parts of it are not ideal or not, exciting, really?
Sure, sure. I have a personal mantra that I am only available for what delights me. And it's very fun and I love it. And I live on a small farm. So I have to do plenty of things that on their own might not be delightful, but living on a small farm delights me. So the
Yeah,
things associated with the thing that delights me are I can do with
right.
delight.
They're neighbors. You can muck out the stalls of
Exactly.
the animals, but it's not because you just love manure. And that's like
Exactly.
being a homeowner. I love being a homeowner. Do I love taking out trash or cleaning gutters or things? But no, but when I do those things, there's satisfaction in being a
Sure.
homeowner. And one of the ways that I like to think about that kind of balance and this goes along with the feeling like a good daughter, is I ask myself about whether or not the thing that I'm doing contributes to my hedonic happiness or my eudaimonic happiness. And these are two forms of happiness that Martin Seligman talks about. He's a in the field of positive psychology, which is like the things that make our life worth living. And um, hedonic happiness is the things that we do that are just fun in the moment. You know,
Mm,
going to the movies, eating popcorn, a song comes on and you stand up and dance. Well, in terms of home ownership, it's not hedonic happiness for me to take out the trash or for me to, pick up broken limbs that fell down on the roof or something. And but parts of hedonic happiness are just sitting on my couch and watching Netflix, and I'm like, I'm in a house, or looking at the trees. But the things I have to do to have the life I want, as you were saying, those contribute to my eudaimonic happiness. Eudaimonic happiness is a lifelong sense of, do I like my life? Does this
mm,
contribute to a life well lived, a good life? And in the moment, isn't, quote, fun, isn't butterflies, isn't starbursts and excitement, but it's still worthy. It's a worthy cause. And so when I'm doing daughtering, and I would say, if I ask myself, do I want to do this, or does it delight me? Does it contribute to my daughtering? I would still ask myself to look at that in two categories. So
mhm.
when I go see my parent and we have lunch together, and maybe my mom is a gift giver, so she's always bringing me little trinkets,
Aw.
or sometimes randomly, even though I'm 43, she's like, here's $20.
Oh my
She
gosh, I
just,
love her.
then that's hedonic happiness. I
Yep.
have fun.
Yep.
When I um have to pick up the phone and say something that she doesn't want to hear, like, I think that you need to go see a doctor about your blood pressure, or I really think that you and dad should consider selling the house in order to, have some funds or something, if those were examples. It's not fun to make my mom upset on the phone. It's not fun to have difficult conversations that need to be said, but I still feel like a good daughter for doing what needs to be done. And that's your daughtering detention. It wasn't right for your mom to come to live in the snow and the stairs. And
Right.
yet there's that part of you. So you did what needed to be done, even though then there's this element that you feel bad about. And we have to kind of mix and balance those things.
Yeah. I mean, and so I guess that is leads to the next question. And obviously it's unique for every situation, but I'm assuming that in the book there are tools of how we balance those things and how we, everything that you're saying about this, not, I don't want to use the word pressure, but this list of duties that we've given ourselves. When you were
Expectations.
listing them at the beginning, I'm I have a daughter, she's 12, and I adopted her from China, my ex-husband and I. And when we came home from China, she was 2, I was 48. So like I know that I am an older mother to this young person, but the things that you were listing of definitions of good daughtering, it sounded like parenting. And so I'm wondering too, like, when does this shift? And has this happened to every generation? Is our generation special in this way that we went from that good daughtering was always some level of parenting, even when we were young?
Yeah. So the first question was about what's in the book. So here's my book. I love to show it off,
Beautiful.
bright pink. It's called Good Daughtering. And I've been so grateful for the wonderful reception that this book has gotten, and really have had a lot of fun introducing it to people, the women who need it, which are just women like you and me,
Mhm.
or anyone who knows a daughter or loves a daughter. This book is for you because there are tools in it. At the end of every chapter, there's an activity. And some of them are thinking activities for noticing more in your environment and in your world. And some of the activities are doing. How can I have a conversation with my parent? How can I communicate with my sibling about what I need or don't need or what's been happening? So the book really is a great place to go. And I think for family members to share it, to talk it over and do the activities and then talk to each other about how you've done the activities. But the one of the things that I talk about that I'm really a crusader for is that we need more language for discussing what doing daughtering is, and similarly for an understanding of what is parenting.
Right.
Now, if we were to we just talk about parenting, parenting is managing. Parenting is planning, it's worrying, it's thinking, it's loving. Parenting is discipline. And we could, all of those things go under the umbrella of parenting. But many of those things also go under the umbrella of being a worker or being a good neighbor or being a citizen of the world who's not a
Or
jerk.
being a woman.
Right, or being a woman. And so when it comes to doing daughtering, it's really important that we not call daughtering parenting, but instead look at the smaller behaviors that are just under both umbrellas. And so we break that down instead to support provisions. And so what
Mhm.
are the ways that we provide support to people in our lives? And so when we are giving support to our child, which I have a 17-year-old son and a 15-year-old daughter. So I'm right in the thick of the type of support that's very emotional and cognitive versus I don't have to go get a sippy cup of milk, right? So the type of support provisions I'm giving my children right now are similar to the type of support provisions I'm giving to my mom and dad. But I'm not parenting my mom and dad or my mother-in-law because I will never be their parent. I will never have been the age they were at during the life contexts they were at. I will never have been alive during the Vietnam War, for example. And so we can't switch places or act like because I am at a point where I give more support provisions or more financial provisions or any of that, which does switch over time or it does move over time. I still never become my parents' parents. In the same way, another term that I try to eliminate is anyone who says that they are best friends. My parent is my best friend, or these women on the internet, they put a picture of their little 3-year-old daughter and they say, "Oh, my best friend." And I think, oh, that is so unhealthy because words matter and you can never be a friend of your parent. Because friendship has this element of choice and you can leave a friend. It's also a peer like relationship. And there's also different privacy rules. Your friend will never have changed your diaper, right? So words matter and those nuances matter. And so that's why talking about daughtering by using different words like closeness and privacy and distance and support and love and thinking about the types of work that we do, emotional work, cognitive work, those give us a much better understanding of what it means to be a daughter and what the obligations are and what the joys are than when we muddy the waters by borrowing words from these
Mm.
other important relationships in our life.
Thank you for that clarification. That's really beautiful. What prompted this work for you?
I come by this very naturally, I think, because there are a few ways that I was funneled to this work. First, I am a woman who was raised in the South or the Southeast. I was raised in Texas. I know I don't sound like I'm from Texas, but I'm born and raised in Texas. And as such, I was always raised to be a hostess, to be hospitable, to be charming, to be welcoming. So I've always had it in me that I love to um, talk to people, and I find it fascinating and interesting to welcome people. But I've always called myself the cruise director because I love asking questions and making sure this person gets to talk when or that person gets to talk. But in my adolescence, when I was about 12, my mom went back to school and became a licensed marriage and family therapist. So I was old enough to understand her transformation during her education and training, and
Right.
also to see the ways that she began to change our larger family system by
For
healing
sure.
some generational trauma and generational wounds. And
Wow.
so I really learned a lot, even in childhood, about families and family systems. But I knew that I wasn't really suited to being a therapist or a counselor myself. So I ended up gravitating towards this work in communication studies. But I've always had a wonderful, loving relationship with my family. Um, Many women in my family system, and so we're very matriarchal society with our family. And that's why I looked at these powerful, strong women and I thought, why are daughters being depicted as just this silent, quiet vessel that would just sit around and wait for mothering? And that's not what the daughters in my family are doing. But when I tried to find the research on active, practical, essential, agentic daughters, it wasn't there. And so I needed to put a stamp on that so that we could say, like, women in families are so important, and we're doing more than parenting, especially because not all women become parents or wives, but every woman starts out as a daughter.
Right. Oh, it's so good. You talk about also that invisible labor. You talk about the overlooked role. What what are the things that make that up? Because I think that, like I said when we were just starting, there are things that we just do that we've always been doing that nobody's mad that we do. And it's not until maybe later in life that we're like, wait a minute, like why? Why am I the CEO of this company with zero paycheck? And why am I doing this? And what is my motivation and what are the expectations? I read a book last year that was very pivotal for me. It was very informative and it was very um, provocative. And I got very mad while I was reading it because it was very true for me. And it's called On Our Best Behavior. I don't know if you know it, by Elise
Writing it
Lowen.
down.
Oh my gosh, it will change your life. The subtitle is The Seven Deadly Sins and the Price Women Pay to Be Good.
Oh no, I just read that actually, but I once you said the seven deadly sins, I remember I did it as an audiobook.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I just yes, and there's
Yeah.
a lot in there that I think she brings up about the patriarchy, about social systems and expectations for women, and it aligns really well with a lot of what I'm talking about with daughtering because our identity as a family member, as a woman, as a and then if we do become mothers or we do become wives, we somehow our identity becomes fused with the behaviors of helpfulness, availability, emotional caretaking, and what we might initially offer because it seems nice and pleasant that we have an inclination to do something for a loved one in our life or even the people at work because we think this would be nice to bring to the table, all of a sudden becomes expected and we
Right.
have to do it. Or we notice that no one else is helping do it and it's not being equally distributed. Yet all the other things we have to do, like taking out the trash or mucking the stalls or for our children, getting them to dentist appointments and cleaning out those sippy cups, is also somehow in our wheelhouse that we are being that we're responsible for. So what happens is that we have this idea that to be good and to be good enough and to be acceptable in our society, we need to do these things. And we have that idea because it's what's modeled for us in
Mhm.
our patriarchal society. It's what we see other women doing, it's what we see our moms and our grandmothers doing. It's what we see the older woman at work doing. And we think, okay, this is a script for me of how I can be successful as well. And so we start to do it because that's as humans how we learn. We follow the model. And then as we go along, we realize that women are doing more of it than men,
Mhm.
and that we're not being noticed or thanked for doing it, which might change how we feel about doing some of these things. And we're, in fact, not being celebrated for doing these things, but rather uh, people are only noticing when there are gaps. Like if we get tired of something and drop it, then that gap is noticed. So it takes a toll on our self-worth, because
Mhm.
what is so essential for human that worth and value is feeling like the work that you do matters.
Right.
And a huge part of mattering is just someone saying, I see you, I see the work, I thank you for the work is valuable. And so much of daughtering, the emotional load, managing conflicts, reducing problems, removing roadblocks, or thinking ahead, planning, putting finances aside, these are hard to see because what they do is remove problems before the problem happens. So people don't, and even daughters ourselves, we don't notice them. And if you don't notice them, you can't call them out and say thank you for them. And yet we're spending a lot of our energy and our time and our mental capacity dealing with these things. So the solution is talk about daughtering more, use the right words to describe what we're doing, ask other people to share in that labor, ask other people to complement our labor, for us to decide, what do I want to do? What do I like doing? What has value? What is needed based on my family and my setting? And then make that change. Make the changes to begin to calibrate more towards the life that makes sense for you and your resources and what your family needs. And so it's an ongoing process for us to apply in our lives.
Mm. It's so good. I'm so grateful that you have worked on this and that you are able to articulate it in such a way that it is practical and we can implement a tool from wherever we are in the process. I'm not sure if you've, incorporated a situation like mine into your book, but I just have a practical question
Yeah.
for me personally. So in this detention that I've put myself in
Yes.
because my mom didn't come live with me. And like, I'm so appreciative of my brother and his wife that are doing what, and I'm about to say something that obviously isn't true, but it feels true to me. They're doing something that I'm supposed to have done. And not even that I'm supposed to have done, I planned to do it. I desired to do it. We talked about how great it was going to be when I moved to Massachusetts, where she is from, and she was going to be here soon, someday. That we didn't want to happen because it meant something bad happened, but we also knew that it was coming and we were looking forward to it. So now that my brother and his wife have taken on that role, I feel like, what should I be doing that make them know how much I appreciate? And like beyond the word, and obviously you don't have the answer to that, they do, but just in having this conversation, it's like when I understand the overwhelm or the not feeling appreciated in doing the work, but there's also this weird dynamic when someone else is doing the work that you think maybe you should have been doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like when
So
he's being a
there's a
better, my brother's
yeah.
being a better daughter than I am.
Well, there's a couple of things in there I think that you can calibrate. First is that the research shows that typically the person who does the elder care is the child who lives the closest. So we don't always give a lot of credit to the men or the different. It could be a different daughter in the family or a daughter-in-law, but it's not uncommon for the parent to just be cared for by the person who's geographically closest. So that is actually what the research shows. The second thing is the research shows that the one who does the elder care, the child who does the most elder care, is typically the one who has the finances to do it. And so there's a couple of different contextual things that we should say matter. Where you live and whether you have the money to help are the two biggest things, not whether you're the daughter, right? And at least that's what we see for the research sociologically across the United States. So first, you should give yourself a little break and say, oh, it didn't have to be me. And actually, it's not all the daughters who are doing it. And it gets evenly distributed across the children that we have overall across the United States. The second thing that I would say to you is that what I'm hearing is that you're not giving yourself enough credit for the types of daughtering that you're doing that are non-task labor. And so when I describe daughtering, I think of it as doing, being, thinking, and feeling.
Mm,
And the doing is what your brother is doing. He's, I'm guessing, doing some groceries or doing some finances or doing some check-ins that are physical. But there are lots of things that you are doing that he does not provide. You obviously have a strong emotional connection with your parent. You have some thoughtfulness about her life, her personality, who she is, that your sister-in-law isn't giving because it's not her mom. And so
right,
you have to calculate and calibrate those things that you're doing that they're not doing. And instead of thinking they're doing more, you can reframe and say, we're doing differently.
right.
And the things that I am doing are valuable. They provide a sense of stability to my mom. They provide richness to her life, that I am available for her emotionally, that I care and think and plan, even when I can't be with her. So an example for me is we have a little bit something similar in our life. My parents are they live close to my sister. And so my sister is the one who drops by, and her kids come by and they do grandkid time and they go out to different meals together. Or if my parents have to go out of town, my sister will look for their dog or get their mail. I can't do any of those things.
Yeah,
But I do a lot more of the emotional daughtering. I do the phone calls. I also do the difficult parts of daughtering, like I said, with the pushy things that I have to say. And she doesn't do those things. And so we agreed, this was maybe 2 years ago, we had this conversation. We said, okay, what are the different categories of things that we're each going to handle? And we're not going to think of ourselves as competitive. We're going to think of ourselves as partners, and you're going to handle some things that are physical and in person and eye to eye, and I'm going to handle some other things that are these big picture ideas, like are they cared for enough financially for the rest of their lives, is their insurance done well, should we go on a big family vacation, I did a big family photo shoot. And so those are the types of things that we agreed to distribute. And it's worked really well for us to think we each have a different lane. She and I each came up with our own different like mission statement and mantra for how we approach daughtering that aligns with our skill set and our resources and our availability. And so we try to be complements to each other in handling all the daughtering that needs to be done rather than thinking one is doing more or less. So that helps us also get along in another way as a family. So I think that you probably just need to give yourself more credit for what you are doing, and you need to see your brother as a compliment And you need to also think this is a lifespan activity. And you've done other things with your mom during your lifespan and her lifespan, and you may still into the future. So it's not just, you're not being graded just on today's one one stamp.
Right, right. And I really appreciate that. And, even just holding the space for the question, because it's not like I haven't thought that through. This conversation prompted it. I can say it out loud. When I say it out loud, I'm like, oh, well, that made more sense inside my head rather than when I got it out of my body. It's like, okay, yeah, you're right.
Well, we need
Like
each
it's
other.
right. It is just a part of the process. And I think that's one thing that I'm so appreciative about this podcast is that of course, I'm shining the spotlight on you and what you're doing and what your work is doing, but also reminding you how important it is because I can drop in my own experience and interact with that work as well. And that we're just getting to, we are all doing the best we can, all of us. And when we get to see a loop closed in somebody else, like it just is helpful. It's helpful.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is that sharing our stories matters. And
Mhm.
when we hear each other's stories, we feel validated. And that's an element of daughterhood that we've been missing because we haven't been talking about it, because we haven't had the words for it. And that's part of what I want to hear from women is just what's your story? And when we hear other people's stories, we learn who do I want to be? We feel good about who we already are. We gain some ideas of who we might be, but we're not generally feeling competitive and comparative with those people. We just want to be in community with other daughters and learn from one another and reinforce for each other. We're already doing it. We're already good enough. Wendy, I see you and the hard work that you are doing. And I see and give credit to the fact that you wish you could be doing different things. And that's worth something too. Just wishing in the same way that I wish I had $1 million. I could have a, homeless shelter and food pantry. And I feel like just wishing that I could do that makes me a good person, So I validate that in you, that you are trying to be the best version of a daughter, and you want that for yourself, but you want that for your parent too, and you wish that you could do that for your brother. And so I think that level of community, just saying that out loud, that's worth something as well.
For sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I love again, I mean, I've told you so much. I love that you are talking about this. Is there anything else that you want the reader to know prior to getting the book? Anything else you want to share in closing?
The book is, I really want your listeners to grab it and share it with a loved one. And as you grab it, make sure to understand that changing your family dynamics and working on yourself or your relationship, it's kind of like getting a pair of braces. It's not fast. It's not going to change overnight. A lot of changing our families is about changing our own thinking. So it's valuable to read, to listen to podcasts, and let ourselves marinate on those ideas. So I would say that getting the book or listening to this podcast, you're already doing it. You're already changing your daughtering and your dynamics. But to be gentle on yourself if you think, gosh, I really like this thing to change in my family and it's taking too long or it's slow or it doesn't seem like it's changing. It is changing because you're changing from the inside out. And it's okay to for it to be slow because families don't move faster than a glacial pace. But those changes will ripple for generations and they'll ripple outward to many, many people in the family. So it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Absolutely. We are playing the long game, that's for sure.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, please tell everyone where they can find and follow you and how they can get the book.
Yes, the book is Good Daughtering, And I thank you for picking that up anywhere fine books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your local bookstore. And you can follow me on Instagram at Dottering101 and all the socials at Dottering101. And you can find more on my website, Dottering101.com.
Perfect. We will link everything down in the show notes, but I have loved this conversation, Allison. Thank you so much for being here.
Me too. Thank you.